Let me get this straight. You blew up a building.
2 CIs and the CEO of 22andU.
Two competing federal agencies with the same mission.
I don't understand why those Fed a-holes are so darn mean.
To protect the public from the scourge of dangerous misinformation.
You know those bum idiots. This is all them. We had a solid case.
The word entrapment, not even in their vocabulary.
The explosives we provided were fake.
Sworn to a duty to always tell the truth.
We have no indication at this time that this was a deliberate act.
We're all being transferred.
To where?
The only place currently with openings. Alaska.
Good morning.
Welcome to the office, huh?
And we got the retro feel. You know, funny about federal buildings, they're all different, but they're still somehow all the same.
Oh, good morning, Agent Walker. At the coffee station. We actually drew straws before he got here, and I won, so we get to work together.
Let's get started. Let's see if we can't stir something up.
Let's give it a minute. I like to warm up the truth muscles a little coffee beforehand.
Well, what do you want to do first?
What do we have for a surveillance van?
Oh, wow. I got a Ford Explorer. We don't have a surveillance van.
Do you put many cases here?
Cases?
Yeah, cases. We're the tip of the spear when it comes to protecting American democracy.
You really believe this? You really believe that people posting crap online is going to cause our country to crumble?
I think the work that we do is important.
We don't have a surveillance van.
Me and some people got one. We've never needed one.
We need a surveillance van. We need a big case, or a CI who can lead us to a big case.
What do you need the van for?
Surveillance.
CIs, or confidential informants, are the lifeblood of any good law enforcement agency. Public posts on social media are one of the best ways to find CIs. Agents would never use coercion or take things out of context to try and persuade someone to become a confidential informant.
The new Taylor Swift single is absolute fire. I'm just seeing a lot of incendiary and violent language here.
Agents always need to be on their toes and ready to make snap decisions.
Is there anything I can do for you guys? Actually, David, there is something you can do for us.
Chicken nuggets.
Chicken nuggets.
What?
Cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger. McDonald's cheeseburger.
Burger King.
Burger King cheeseburger.
Flame broiled.
Chicken nuggets.
Oh, baby, know you're gonna like it. I wanna be your beaver pilot. Said, honey, know you're gonna like it. I wanna be.
Awesome, right?
Is this a loner?
This thing's totally legit.
What is this? It's got windows!
All right. Welcome. Day one of Freed Karen Reed. And boy, has it been a nutty day already. You thought that the trial was nutty, but then all of a sudden things just break loose. Like immediately with the trial, things just break loose. And you just get all kinds of wild stuff. So, man alive. Yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff going on. So, okay, couple things to start with though. This, I like this little thing. This is kind of a neat little video. I saw this and I thought this was kind of cute. So this is a small town truth is what it's called. It's like a couple minutes here.
When I signed up to be the police, I thought things would be different. Thought it would be more solving crimes and chasing bad guys and high-speed pursuits, you know, rolling over the hood of a car like in the movies. Maybe not that, but you know what I'm saying. But no, that's not my reality. My reality is things like there's a goat out on Main Street. Can you go put the goat up on Main Street? Or Meemaw called in 911. Her cable's out and she can't watch Judge Judy. Lord forbid.
Meemaw. I love it.
Or Dale over on 3rd Street wants to file a police report because his neighbor's cat's in the window and won't quit staring at him with demonic intent. What even is that, Dale? He's got a lazy eye. Go back in your house and shut the blinds. Stop staring at him. And then there's nothing like going to your local gas station. Everybody's real nice normally, all telling you how much they appreciate your service. You're trying to be humble, but you're sweaty from chasing the goat. And your vest smells like pepper spray and regret. So then there's that. But if you need somebody to come get your
I love this right here.
drunk cousin off of a John Deere tractor at 2 o'clock in the morning in the middle of deer season while dodging flying boots and him telling you that you're violating his constitutional rights, I'm your girl. Give me a call and I'll come running. Oh man, God bless small towns. And God help me.
I like that one. I saw that earlier and I'm just like, that is cute. That is very, very funny. So, yeah. And then if there's anything that I want to see AI used for, it's stuff like this. And we're seeing a bunch more of this. Now that AI video is getting better, and I still don't like it, but you can't put something like this together with anything other than AI. It's just not happening. And we're going to see this. I mean, this is where we're going. So I saw this one here.
We've just arrived in the colonies because there was some bitching over a tiny 3% tax. Not that big a deal, but whatever, this shit'll be easy.
What the actual fuck? Where the hell are they? Unless they're lined up 10 feet in front of me wearing bright blue uniforms, I can't see them. These guys are such assholes. What kind of a dickhead doesn't line up in a straight line and patiently take turns shooting one another?
These colonials are worse than gonorrhea. They hide behind trees and pick us off while we pass through single file wearing bright red.
God.
And you would know, Corporal, even though we're the superpower of the world, we still don't know how to counter this ingenious tactic of hiding behind trees.
God damn, we've been here 8 years and are just getting our shit pushed in. These boys weren't kidding. They really do hate taxes.
Okay, this is our last stand. We may have a chance if we just... Nope. Shit. Never mind, those ass-smelling French are here. I'm here in place of Cornwallis, because apparently he's really sick today, to deliver terms of surrender to that giant stud right there.
So yeah, if we got to have AI, video, hopefully it's entertaining. And there is some great Star Wars ones out there. I'm just going to say there's some really good Star Wars ones out there right now. That are just hilarious. I'm just cracking up at them. They basically followed 2 really bad stormtroopers who I don't know how they haven't died yet, but it is AI video. And one of them keeps falling down everywhere. So if you get a chance, check those out because those are actually pretty funny. So, and like I said, this is where we're at. I mean, we know it's AI. This is AI video. None of it's real. It's insane how good it's gotten, how fast it's gotten this good. Now, probably next week, when we're out of stuff to talk about on Karen Reed, we're going to start talking a little bit more about AI because there was some OpenAI is one of the bigger AI companies, and boy, there's some whole kinds of stuff that has come out about the CEO, Sam Altman, who, if you don't know, so OpenAI was started as, oh yeah, I thought I saw some of that. Yeah. I caught a little bit of that, but I didn't get a watch a full one, so I'll have to go look those up. So OpenAI was started by people in the tech industry, including Elon Musk. It was started as a nonprofit, and the name of it is OpenAI. It was supposed to be open. It's supposed to be available. Well, they kicked Elon out. Altman took control of it. They became a for-profit company, and now they're just basically out to screw us all. It's basically going to be, and there's talking about collaboration with Reddit, which if you know anything about Reddit and the people who are the moderators at Reddit, that is the last thing in the world that we need is AI controlling speech on the internet with influence from Reddit moderators. I mean, we might as well just lock everything up. We might as well just go home. Nothing's going to be allowed on the internet except for what they want. So, woo, doggy, we are coming up against some shit. We need people to just be critical. Criticizing whatever you want to criticize is still legal, no matter what Reddit mods or OpenAI or anybody is going to say. So stay frosty. So yeah, we'll get to that. But today, oh my goodness, we have got all kinds of stuff today. Patty just sent me this one, so we'll watch this one first. This is Karen Reed's father and brother showing some emotion after the trial. So, and I just screwed that up. All right.
You've had the day, right? A little bit of time.
This is an interview from WJAR, I guess. NBC 10 WJAR is Southern New England's leading news station covering news, politics, sports, and weather in Rhode Island. So, all right.
To maybe have some celebrations yesterday. How are we feeling right now?
Go ahead.
Relieved. First and foremost, proud. Karen, proud of this legal team, proud of my parents. That?
Still numb. You know, you after living 3.5 years of this nightmare, this terror, this fright, up against this power of the state.
Oh, that's huge. And I'm watching this first. I have not seen this yet. I didn't get a chance to preview it because I just got it. Thank you, Patty. That's huge right there. Yeah. I mean, all of us today, we are, and I mean, he's intimately involved in this. Imagine how, we feel, people covering this trial for so long. A friend of mine today I had lunch with who had not followed the trial and saw it on Fox News and said, what makes people go to get on a plane from North Carolina and go to Boston and be there for the verdict? What makes people do that? And just like it's the audacity. It's people that see the blatant audacity of this whole entire trial and investigation, and just the absurdness that they would actually bring this case, and so it resonated with people. And there are other reasons. There are psychological reasons. There are It also shows, and this just really hit me. And I got to think this through for a second, because this is NBC 10. This is the station, right? This is one of the news stations. But you look at how Court TV covered it. You look at how Fox covered it. You look at how, Fox was kind of okay. I mean, they had Bettero on occasionally, but Court TV was not. Court TV was not okay how they covered it. They covered this from a very strong Commonwealth. I mean, they had John DePietro on there, which is that guy's a complete idiot. I don't know how he's even functioning in the. This was covered. A lot of the mainstream people that covered this, a lot of the mainstream news that covered this did not cover this as, even if they didn't even cover it even handed, a lot of them were Commonwealth leaning coverage, court TV to begin with. It was independent media. It was independent social media. It was independent creators that carried this. It was Emily. It was Andrea. It was Runkle. It was all the other people. Auntie Deb. I mean, just hundreds, probably hundreds. But you had channel after channel after channel that had this on, that covered this. And you had tens of thousands of people that were watching those channels. And Emily, Emily, to her credit, is a prosecutor. She's a former prosecutor. She, a lot of times, is strong on the prosecution side. And even she saw immediately in the original trial how ridiculous this was. And she saw Brennan's actions and the stuff he did on the preliminary hearings and stuff. So this movement was driven a lot by independent media. And so it just kind of, it's a kind of a microcosm of where we are right now in this space, in our intake of information, that we are absorbing more and more alternate sources from NBC 10, right? Yes, they got the interview here, and maybe I don't know anything about it. Maybe they covered it well, but independent media is what really pushed this case. So, and I didn't think about that today when I was having that conversation, is, the injustice that everybody saw that said, what the hell's going on? How could they charge this person? It just doesn't make any sense. I keep doing weird stuff here. Sorry. I am just fixing stuff. But yeah, it was independent media that really drove this entire thing. And so for him to say, that's big for him. We feel like, okay, we've been through this whole process, and he lived it. I mean, and battled the state, which is the most powerful entity that anyone's going to battle. If you have to battle the state, they have unlimited resources, obviously, to come after you. And Karen Reed had the backing and had the backing of a great legal team and the backing of a thing. But how many people out there right now are getting railroaded like she is, and they don't have the backing? So, and obviously people commit crimes all the time and should suffer the consequences or whatever. But we also need to hold law enforcement and agencies accountable when they make mistakes and when they do a bad job. I mean, that's basically my biggest thing. Yes, there are a lot of lawbreakers out there, and they should be brought to justice. But everybody is entitled to a robust defense. Everybody. So, all right, officer.
3.5 years of this nightmare, this terror, this fright, up against this power of the state and its unlimited resources to come after you. It's a nightmare. It's been hell, as I've said on many, many occasions. And right now, to have it over, it seems surreal. We were up till 2:30, 3 o'clock at the seaport. We're tired, we're numb, but we're so grateful. We're so blessed to Almighty God that, we have this outcome. Yeah.
And you're sitting in, or standing maybe in the courtroom, waiting for that outcome. What's going through your mind? Can you kind of walk me through your internal thoughts there?
Well, it's very, it's something I would not wish on anyone who has a loved one, whether it be a significant other or a child. And the child can be 45, as in Karen's case, or it can be 15 or whatever it may be. I mean, so many days. You think of the first trial went on for multiple months. There have been multiple hearings, and now the second trial, multiple months, multiple witnesses over the course of the last 2+ years. And you see these court officers, and they're very professional, very kind, very accommodating, good morning, have a nice weekend, so on and so forth. But in that moment when it's announced the jury has a verdict, you'll see 2 or 3 of those officers come behind your daughter and stand there. And their position is to be sure that if a guilty is announced, and it carries with it a likely imprisonment, that they're going to immediately cuff her. And that idea of embracing her or holding her and being able to kiss her and
walk out with her
is gone. That is unnerving, and I've always felt that. And that's why we marshaled every resource we could, drained every account we could, galvanized every effort among women who really started a lot of this, because many of them have felt objectified, dehumanized, victimized, not respected, and have identified with Karen that grace, that fight, that resolve to not give up. And I tell you, if it had not been for them, and they're in the thousands, and I've met many, I won't say I've met thousands, but
tens of thousands of people that followed this case. Yes.
I've met several hundred women at standouts outside of court, and I'll say to them, thank you so much. And I'll hear things, I wish I would have had a father like you, and I'll say to them, I'm sure you did. And they'll say, no, you didn't. I said, well, with all respect, the fact that you're here, there has to be some DNA imparted on you that came from him. So be proud of, your dad. And I mean that, So the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but we're grateful. Everything comes to an end, and this nightmare is over. And so gratified and so fortunate we had this great team of lawyers. I mean, as you saw them, they're just so passionate, so smart, so dedicated, and have so much fight, so much resolve. We're very, very fortunate. And when you think of the Sandra Birchmore case that happened in Norfolk County.
Oh, I love that he's bringing that up. Oh, yes. No, exactly. That's the next one. Such a travesty and such a horrible, horrible investigation there.
Investigated by some of the same who were part of the Karen Reed case. And I'm not going to, deceive myself into thinking Karen Reed and Sandra Birchmore are 2 outliers on a data point curve. That there are not others who have been victimized, but maybe haven't been as lucky and as blessed as we have to have this movement and to have these attorneys so smart, so dedicated to fight for Karen's freedom. And
Karen's right there with them. She really is. She's so strong, and in many ways she's a leader of this movement as well. They see a bit of themselves in Karen, whether it be just their gender or what she's gone through. But the lawyers have talked about it, whether it be Alan, David, Bob, Liza, all of them have talked about how Karen is really an integral part of this defense team. And she was from the very beginning.
Have you talked to Karen today?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, we were with her this morning, we were with her last night in the seaport, and we've talked to her a couple of times today.
How's she feeling?
Elated. She's just waking up today from a nightmare. She was telling us when she went back after court yesterday and after the verdicts and her freedom, and she went back to her hotel room where the entire defense team was staying and looked at her various attire, her suits that she wears, and she said, okay, the immediate thought was, what am I going to wear tomorrow? And it just hit her. Well, there is no more tomorrow. So, you know, just so happy for her and so proud of her. And we're blessed. We're blessed that the good Lord has seen this to a justifiable end, for sure.
Nathan, I asked you this question earlier too. What's next?
He's wearing a Lexus shirt. I just noticed that he is wearing a Lexus shirt. That's funny.
Justifiable end, for sure.
Nathan, I asked you this question earlier
Interesting.
too. What's next for Karen? Maybe a book.
Does he have
in the
Lexus
works,
guy,
or
actually?
What are we thinking here?
I don't know what she's
Wait a
going to
minute.
do. I think a book is a possibility, you know, about these experiences, her life, her story.
Got plenty to write about.
Yeah, and even before this, you know, what she's done for a living and her health issues that she's had, those challenges make for quite a story. And then you add in, obviously, these
Okay,
legal issues.
he was a dean at Bentley University, so I thought he had something to do with Lex. Maybe not. He's a professor. Okay.
And the family and everything. I think there's a book there somewhere down the road.
Do you think she'll stay in the area?
I don't know. That's up to her. You know, we'd love her, whatever she wants to do.
Yeah.
Whatever she wants to do. She wants to go out to California, Florida, stay in New England, it's her call.
Go to Australia.
Travel, do something.
Yeah.
You notice, Bill, and really, as I walked up here, it's all about getting back to normal. You guys are doing the yard work. You're working around the house. Is this the first time you've really been able to do these things?
Well, it's the first time this week, and it's the first time in the three and a half years, whether it be plowing this driveway or whether it be doing lawn work last year or spreading mulch. It's the first time I've done anything leisurely in 3.5 years where I haven't had in the recesses of my mind that threat that I could lose Karen. And that's very comforting. That's the power of Almighty God.
We talked about it just an hour or two ago. The difference feels like you can actually put your phone down today and not worry, is there, you know, a concerning call or text coming through. And today feels, I don't want to speak for my father, but it feels like there's that relief there of, it's okay, if I missed the call, everything's probably okay.
Yeah. No parent, no loved one should experience what I've experienced, and my wife and my son here just should not. The justice system should be in place that at various levels there are gatekeepers who evaluate the evidence, who evaluate the strength or weaknesses of the case, and make an astute, informed, and proper decision. And when you think of what's happened in this case, the Department of Justice, federal government was involved, provided 3,000 plus pages. Also the ARCA, the scientists from Pittsburgh and Philadelphia area, who concluded, based on their independent study, that the injuries to John O'Keefe were not the result of being struck by that vehicle, nor was the damage to the vehicle the result of striking a 6'1", 216-pound individual. And then it was the Department of Justice that also provided you with the infamous Proctor text. And then with all of that, they still go forward. And then on March 19th, 12 days before retrial 2 launches, they fire the lead detective. They fire me, the lead detective, and we still had to be put through the ringer. People may say it's absurd, it's scandalous. In our position, it's frightful.
It's scary. Truly.
It 100% is scary that the state is going to have all of that against them. And we'll see here shortly, because we've got a couple interviews, written interviews with jurors to go through. You'll see how they weren't duped by the state, but for the state to spend millions of dollars, it's unfathomable.
And so nobody, and I would tell everyone who can watch this, take back your government. Get out there and vote. Do not be apathetic. Get out there and make your vote count. And hold your leaders accountable. And if you don't like what you see, hold them accountable by changing your vote and going elsewhere. But that's the power of America, the power of your vote. There are 800,000 people living in Norfolk County, the richest county in Massachusetts, by the way. And my understanding is only 70,000 of them, less than 10%, voted in the last election. So it's important. Get out there and take back, make your voices heard.
Good sentiment.
Yeah.
Anything else that you guys want to say that I have not asked?
I would say in regards to the supporters,
Yes.
they put us over the top. That level of support, what we heard in that courtroom yesterday, when you're in there, there's a 3 to 5 minute delay between what's said there and what's maybe coming through on the TV or on radio and what people are hearing outside on their phones. And when we heard not guilty, and the crowd goes nuts, it was palpable. It came through your body. It was like Mick Jagger or Taylor Swift came out on stage at Gillette, and the place went nuts. I mean, Mass State Police was leaving. There was better than 3,000 people outside, supporters, just lining the streets. Security everywhere. It's amazing. And that's because of Karen. That's because of her story. That's because of the team and her supporters. So a huge thank you to her supporters. And I know a ton of them come out of Rhode Island. We see it. We've seen it at standouts in Rhode Island. I work in Rhode Island. I see it constantly. So all around New England, all around the globe.
Yeah, to hear that applause and it reverberate through that
Yes, all around the globe.
courtroom, and everybody heard it. It was just, for one of the few times over the last three plus years, I was proud to be an American. I said, this is what it's about. And thank God I had them, behind me. It was just, gave you goosebumps when it just riveted through the court, and nobody.
It gave us goosebumps. We're not even relatives. It gave me goosebumps when I heard that. Oh my gosh, it was emotional. Hearing that cheer, hearing that come up was just amazing.
It was unmistakable, and when we came out, all right, it was just
All over again.
Yeah, all
Round
over
two.
again. Yeah.
Alan Jackson said to us, he hugged us in another courtroom before we walked out. And he just looked at us and he went, I'll never forget that sound.
Yeah.
And we won't either.
Gives me chills as you're explaining it now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anything else that you guys want to say?
Thanks for making the story part of your broadcasts, in your newscasts, and then I know you typically run some special focus of it, and maybe the 7 o'clock hour with Gene Valicenti and Katie Benoit. So we appreciate that. The more people learn about it, and then they do their own investigation, 90% come to the same conclusion. Karen Read was and is factually innocent. So thank you.
Wow. Whoa, that was an awesome interview. Holy moly. Oh my goodness. Woo. Yes. Okay, so we have Alan Jackson today on the Howie Carr Show. So let's kick into that. Go ahead. And then we'll do Alan, and then we'll do the couple of jurors. And then we'll go from there.
To be joined this afternoon by her attorney, Alan Jackson, who did such a
I haven't listened to this yet either, so we'll see.
fantastic job in the trial,
Yeah,
both
I'm
trials actually. Alan Jackson, thank you so much for being with us here on the Howie Carr Show.
It's my pleasure, Howie. Thanks for having me.
So did you ever were you ever in any doubt, or how much doubt were you in as to whether or not you could get a fair trial in Norfolk County the second time around?
Oh, I had how much doubt was I? I was in enormous doubt. I mean, I never doubted the evidence. I never doubted her innocence. I never doubted Karen's. The just result should be that Karen walks out of that courtroom in the front door, through the front door, not the back. But did I doubt whether or not I could get a fair trial? About every single minute of every single day. Yeah, I doubted it significantly. I think we may be the only duo, lawyer and client, who has gotten back-to-back acquittals on murder charges. I mean, we got back-to-back acquittals. When has that ever happened?
Double jeopardy. And I thought you were going for triple jeopardy yesterday when they brought back they said, oh, we don't have a verdict after all. I mean, you're going into the record books. You got two murder acquittals here in a row.
Yeah, I don't know that I'll ever meet another lawyer who can claim that. Yeah, this team has gone through the gauntlet.
What was it like having basically the judge tied your hands, the defense's hands behind your backs, didn't she? What was that? What was that like?
First things, it was difficult. I mean, that was the challenge, right? So Hank Brennan came on as this, sort of self-proclaimed stalwart of justice. We're going to make sure that Karen Reed gets a fair trial. That was just lip service. It was anything but that. The Commonwealth had a theme and a theory going into this case that they did not want the jurors, in my view, they did not want the jurors to actually hear the evidence. They had no interest in having the jurors presented with the truth and the evidence on both sides, even playing field. Everything they did strategically was to try to hide evidence, try to hide witnesses, try to hide experts from the jurors. They filed motion after motion after motion. And well, that's one thing. I mean, I can.
So count them up. Reed, or Reed, yeah, of course. Russell, La Posada, both ARCO witnesses. They didn't get their former FBI, to testify how crappy the investigation was. So no, I haven't. I don't know that I'm going to. I don't know that I'm going to watch Proctor's things. I don't know that I want to give them the time, honestly. I've seen the outs. I've seen some of the clips. I've seen some of the thing, but I don't even know that I want to watch Proctor. But yeah, all the people that they tried to hold out, all the motions they tried to file, all the fighting over the ARCO witnesses and how they deleted their text messages and blah, 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 blah. I mean, he's right. They did not want the actual evidence to come into the trial. They did not.
Handle a prosecutor. I can beat most prosecutors with my hands tied behind my back. I know evidence very, very, very well. The problem is, when the judge is on the Commonwealth side and tends to lean toward the Commonwealth, that makes life very difficult. And I've got example after example after example
of
Judge Cannoni making very bizarre rulings that just did benefit the Commonwealth over the defense. And they're myriad.
Yeah, we would get, people would be texting in and saying, why doesn't Jackson object to this or that? And I said, after, he's been overruled, his objection's been overruled about 1 million times in a row. I mean, he's just pissing off the jury if he keeps objecting because he knows what's going to happen, right?
So the court is a theater, right? There is a theater to courtroom advocacy.
Yes.
And part of it is playing to the audience, and the audience is.
So I was talking to somebody today, and it wasn't necessarily about this case. I was talking to a person I work with who in past professional for a long time. I mean, most of her professional life worked for attorneys. And now she does, legal type stuff for us, but she's worked in attorneys' offices her entire life. And we were talking about attorneys and how one of the things was she said she had most of the attorneys she worked for, she had to have very specific instructions for. Like, this is that. Everything's labeled. You can read the labels very clearly. They have to be walked through it. And I'm like, most attorneys have a very creative mind. A lot of them are right-brained, almost artistic. Like they would share some of the same characteristics you had as a musician or an artist or an actor, right? And a lot of those folks don't really operate within normal everyday functions on a lot of them. They're just kind of, they've got a different mindset. They got a different way of functioning. And so it's kind of funny that he talks about it as being a theater because, you know, to be a good attorney, you have to be creative. You have to have that creative mind.
It's not the public at large. The audience is not the bloggers. The audience is 12 folks, or in this case, 18 folks sitting in a jury box. I had to play the odds. There was a witness I took, Howie. This is still just shocking to me. There was a witness that I took on direct examination. It's direct, and it's an expert, and just allowed to lead experts. In every state in the union, you can have moments where you lead experts. Every question I asked was objected to by Hank Brennan, and 100% of his objections were sustained. I've never seen that in 30 years of practice. Literally, I think it was 49 objections and 49 sustained objections by Hank Brennan and the judge. Talk about trying to keep the information from the jurors. It's not like I was abusing my position trying to get information in.
That is astounding. That is just astounding that can happen. I mean, good grief. I mean, if there had been a different outcome, that's an astounding thing. Oh my
It
God.
was not relevant. I just had to ask the question 17 different times in 5 different directions to get the information in front of the jury. I've never had a situation where the judge sustains every single objection by the prosecution. That's never happened. Statistically, it's impossible.
How about the fact when Brennan would kind of like drift off, and you would ask a tough question, and she would ask Brennan, "Objection, counselor." You know, I've never seen that in court. Have you?
No, never. It certainly seemed like the Judge Cannoni had an idea of what she thought should be presented to the jury and how she thought it should be presented to the jury, instead of just being, calling the balls and strikes. That's what she's there for. Her job is very, very it's simple. She is a gatekeeper of the evidence, for sure, absolutely. So you don't want to allow abuses on either side to occur in your courtroom, but you allow the lawyers to try the cases. You allow the lawyers to direct examine the witnesses or cross-examine the witnesses. You allow the evidence to come in before the jury, because ultimately the jury is the trier of fact, not the judge. The most important folks in the room are the jurors. So it struck me after a while, and it struck me in trial number 1. She did the same thing. It was just, in my view, abusive of the process, not allowing the system to just work. Let the witnesses testify, let the evidence come in, and let the jurors weigh the evidence, and then let the advocates argue about the weight of the evidence. That's a trial in and of itself. It's not difficult.
What would if you could speak directly to Judge Cannone, what would you say to her in criticism or?
Woo! I can't wait for this question here. Yeah, he's right. I mean, it's just that the judge is supposed to be the umpire, right? And not some, but I mean, she was weighted on the Commonwealth side. It was disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. It is a disgusting display. It is a joke. It is I can't even think of the words. It is just a bastardization of what our criminal justice system is supposed to be. It just really is. And it's just frightening. It should frighten people out there.
Of what she did.
Well, I have to be careful. I am an officer of the court in every jurisdiction in which I'm pro hoc, and I can imagine I may be back here in Massachusetts again. I doubt I'll be in front of Judge Cannoni. But my suggestion would be just do better. Don't try to put your thumb on the scale. No judge should ever try to put your thumb on the scale. Let the evidence get before the trier of fact in a fair and, above all else, an impartial way. I did not feel this was an impartial judge. I just didn't. And I don't think anybody who's watching would argue with that.
What about the district attorney, Michael?
No, yeah, the oh my gosh, there's so much. Was that an accurate thing of what you saw? Yeah. And then when last time when Buchanan argued that it was accurate, even after they said, oh, this is inverted, he said, well, it's still accurate. It's just inverted. It's like, no, when you're seeing that footage, when you're seeing that flipped footage, your brain says that that's the passenger side and the other side is the driver's side. That is what your brain is telling you. No matter how much you correct your brain and say, oh, no, the other side is the driver's side, it's flipped. When you look at it instinctively, your brain says this is the driver's side, this is the passenger side. No amount of correcting is going to correct your brain from thinking that. And so to say that it's still accurate is completely ridiculous. So, all right, Alan
Morrissey, who got 3,000 pages of evidence from the FBI, pretty much conclusively proving that your client did not strike John O'Keefe. And yet he went out and spent close to $500,000 to hire his own experts. What would you say to Michael?
That bill's going to be even higher. That bill's going to be $750,000 just for Brennan and Brennan's team. It's going to be 750, I bet, when they're done.
Morrissey, the district attorney.
Be right back.
For Michael Morrissey, I have a lot more to say than I have to say to Judge Canoni. For Michael Morrissey, the overall arching comment is do better. Do better, sir. You are in the job of seeking justice. You're not in the job of winning cases. And that's what it seemed like he was doing. Not seemed like. That's all he was doing. And that's what Hank Brennan was doing. And that's what Laura McLaughlin was doing, who was writing all the papers, the abusive process, trying to keep all of our witnesses out of the courtroom. Literally, they spent hundreds and hundreds of hours filing motions trying to keep our witnesses away from the jurors. Ultimately, we were able to overcome it. But it was not easy, Howie. I got to tell you, this is one of the most challenging. This is the most challenging case I've ever tried in my life. And we didn't win because of the process. We won despite the process that was put in place in that Dedham courtroom. It was a travesty, in my view.
That's a T-shirt right there, Patty. We won despite the process. We didn't win with the process. We won despite the process. That is saying something right there. That's a huge statement right there. We won despite what they put us through. Oh yeah. Yep. No, same thing. It was like, that just doesn't look right. Something's off. And then, they picked up on it right away. Yeah, they would. I mean, yeah, exactly. And it was almost like they, I think this trial really, their defense strategy on this trial was really, really good. I think Bob helped. I think bringing in that fresh perspective with Alessi, who's a freaking genius. I think bringing him in helped narrow the focus. The first one was almost like, in our justice system, that it is 100% the state that is supposed to prove everything beyond a reasonable doubt. Whereas it felt like there was a lot of burden shifting in the first trial. Like they didn't necessarily need to prove it, but that's kind of what happened. That's kind of how it was. And then this trial, it really came down to reasonable doubt. I mean, it really came down to reasonable doubt. And so I think that was, yeah. Oh yeah. No, the police officer. Oh yeah. No, there's a juror statement here in a little bit that's going to tell you about that.
What was the worst thing that they kept out? The butt dials, the FBI, the solicitation
FBI.
of a bribe?
You just hit the nail right on the head. The FBI. How can you possibly defraud a jury by saying, okay, defense, you're not allowed to mention the fact that ARCA was hired by an independent agency, the FBI and the Department of Justice, the DOJ, and at the same time allow the prosecution to get up and cross-examine the very witnesses that were hired by the FBI and call them your employers. Are you kidding? That was not a mistake. Hank Brennan did that absolutely on purpose, and he did it because he knew he was going to get a very favorable call by the judge. We objected over and over. We said he opened the door. This is perpetrating a fraud on the jury. This was not their employer. Nowhere close to being their employer. These witnesses' employer is ARCA. Yet when we went to sidebar, nope, you can't mention the FBI. And the Commonwealth was still able to perpetrate this just abject fraud on the jury. Now, thank God the jurors were smart enough that they did not allow that to affect their ultimate judgment. But that's the kind of abuse that should not ever happen in an American courtroom.
Did you think that Brennan was going to seek jail time for the drunk driving?
No, I didn't. I told Karen going into the verdict watch, if you will, I sort of have the sound of the Jeopardy theme in my head when I go into verdict watch. It's brutal. It's friggin' brutal. But no, I told her over and over, look.
What's going to be very interesting is the sidebar conversations, like they were in Depp v. Heard. Those came out. We are going to get these. We are going to be able to read through all of the sidebar conversations. And so we're going to get to see the level, like he's talking about here, like when Hank called that other agency their employers. He kept saying their employers, your employer, your employer. We're going to get to see the arguments that were made. We're going to get to see, and that's where that's where a lot of the legal arguments take place, is at those sidebars. And we're going to get to see the even more the level of depravity that was this judge and Hank Brennan. And oh my gosh, it's going to be great. Yeah, no, I can't wait either. We'll probably read through them here. So yeah,
there is a very good possibility that there's going to be an OUI conviction. Very good possibility, and that was in some respects that was by design, and I can explain that at a later time.
Oh,
but,
I would donate.
There was
absolutely,
in my view, no way that Judge Cannone could actually impose some sort of draconian jail time. Nobody gets jail time in Massachusetts for first-time DUI with perfect driving record, and that's exactly how Karen came to. She's not allowed under Massachusetts statutes. She is not allowed to consider acquitted charges. And I knew, in my heart of hearts, I knew we were going to acquit her of everything having to do with striking John O'Keefe with an SUV. It just didn't happen. It just didn't happen, and there was no way they could prove it happened. So
there was a lot of questioning about that decision to put in the OUI, put in that last charge. And I think you'll see here when we get to the juror interviews, I think it helped. In the end, I think it helped. Oh, there's it's like he's really hard to pin because his voice is very unique, and it's not a friendly voice. It's not the conniving. That's a very good reference
be
there.
standing before the judge with a very clean record, first time DUI, with no real information, true information about her BAC at the time of the driving. So I was not concerned that she was going to go to jail. Karen was very concerned, obviously. Anybody who's in that position thinks the guillotine is hanging over their head. Obviously, she was concerned, but I wasn't. And good for Hank for not seeking it, and good for Judge Cannone for not making it an issue of it. She was given the lowest level program that everybody gets for a first-time DUI, and that's exactly what should have happened.
Is
That
the
was just.
is the FBI going to get involved in this? Do you think?
I wish they would. I thought it was sort of a
I do
sad
too.
day.
I wish they
for the
would
justice
too.
system when it was announced in court that, and Mr. Brennan took great pleasure in announcing in court that the FBI investigation was quote unquote closed. I've never heard of that, Howie. In part, and keep in mind, I don't know if your listeners know it, but I was a prosecutor for 18 years before I ever represented a defendant, and I did it at some of the highest levels. I've never heard of an investigative agency announcing to the targets the investigation is closed. That has never happened. So
I don't think it happened, actually. I don't think it actually happened. I think he was BSing. I don't think he actually got. I think Morrissey was BSing. And because you noticed anything as far as Farwell Birchmore, they have pushed Farwell Birchmore off until this thing is closed. And so now we should be seeing some movement on Birchmore's case. So that's the next one to follow, because the state of Massachusetts, Canton, have not charged him. Now they're going to say, well, the feds have already charged him, so that we don't need to charge him. You can have state and federal charges against you. You can have charges in the state and federal for the same murder, right? He could have murder charges in feds, and he could have, tampering with evidence charges or whatever for the state charges. There's still state charges that he could face. It's happened all throughout history.
I still have questions about that, but
Oh,
it is
yeah.
what it is. Mr.
No,
Brennan
it's-
announced it in court. I took him at his word. It was to me, it was a punt on the part of the FBI. I think there's plenty of information for them, plenty of evidence for them to investigate, and I think they should. And I think that if they're doing their job, they should look real close into the culture of the Massachusetts State Police, a culture that can foster somebody as dangerous as Michael Proctor and his
A cancer. I remember that's a memorable line in your opening statement. I remember that. Well, I want to play you one cut before I let you go here from Michael Proctor. What did you make of that? Have you watched that yet?
I haven't. I couldn't. I was in a celebratory mood yesterday, so I couldn't.
Enrique Delgado. That's all I'm going to say about the Massachusetts State Police and their culture. Enrique Delgado.
I couldn't bring myself to watch Michael Proctor do anything. I suppose I'll have to do it. Now you've shamed me into it. I've got to watch it.
I got to play you one cut, though. I got to play you one cut as he goes over his investigative chops here. Cut 9.
Sure.
Is there any part of the actual investigation that you would do over?
Because it's blowing up into this crazy so-called conspiracy, maybe I could have avoided it by, looking at other people's cars just to say we did it. There's some witnesses maybe we could have interviewed a little sooner, but overall, myself and every detective in that office,
Oh my
worked
God.
this case like we always do, and so I wouldn't change anything.
What?
No.
We work this case just like we always do, Alan Jackson.
That is the scariest phrase I think I've ever heard from a detective. Given what we now know about how this case was investigated and not investigated, for him to literally say on national TV, nah, not so much. I would work this case just the same way I'd work every other case. Just
Oh, my
like I do every other
Lord.
case. Every other defendant, every other defense attorney who has represented a defendant in which Michael Proctor has touched a piece of evidence should be clamoring for some sort of habeas corpus, some sort of retrial, some sort of redo, if you will,
100%.
in Massachusetts. He is a disaster in terms of an investigator, an absolute abject disaster. For him to say, maybe I should have looked at another car, maybe I should have interviewed a couple of witnesses. Are you kidding? He acts like it's an afterthought. That is your job, sir. Do your job. Do your duty. You're supposed to be an objective finder of fact. and then present those facts to a prosecutor who then presents those facts to a jury. None of that happened. None of what I just described happened. And that is day one in law school. That's day one. You learn that.
Oh my
How's
God.
Karen Reed doing right now?
Phenomenal. She is the toughest woman I know. She has a steel spine. She's got no quit. She's never given up. I think, we're all in a position right now. We've lived in the pressure cooker of the last 3 years of this onerous, draconian system that's tried to break her and beat her down, and we've all sort of been through it.
2 years at least for Alan, because he came in pretty close, but 3 years, I mean, three and a half, almost 4 years. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think she would, but I think also she probably is disgusted. She probably is like, doesn't want anything to do with the criminal justice. And I don't blame her. She's a very intelligent person. And so I can't wait. I can't wait for her interview. Her interview is going to be amazing.
And I think she's just processing what it feels like to be, a free, a truly free woman.
Truly free.
She's buoyed by the tens of thousands, millions of supporters who have raised their voices in defense of her, and that's where she gives the credit. Look, we all worked really hard, including her. By the way, she's the unsung hero of the defense team. She's as good a lawyer as I've ever seen, and I've seen some damn good lawyers. She's as good as I've ever seen strategically. Attention to detail, finding the evidence, finding the details, and exploiting those details and exploring those details in a courtroom. She's as good as it gets. But I think now she wants to take a beat, take a breath. She never wanted to be a lawyer. She never wanted to be in this position. I think she's probably going to a little separation from the justice system.
I hope she gets her job back in Fidelity. Alan Jackson, I'm so appreciative of you coming on and give our best to Karen. And I hope next month when you come back, you could come in and spend an hour with us talking about this case.
I'd love to. That's a
Yes.
gentleman's
For sure.
invitation. I will take you up on that.
Okay, I'll be in touch with you in about 4 weeks or so.
All right. So that's Alan. We got to hear. I mean, yes, he couldn't unload completely on Cannoni. He could unload on Hank, though, and he did. And he could unload on Morrissey, and he did. But yes, for Karen, oh my gosh, yeah. We just watched. There's an interview with her dad. We just watched this interview with her dad, and it's on YouTube. It's on NBC 10 WJAR. An amazing interview just now. So all right. Next, we have this was the first juror interview. So let's check it out. So we got the first juror come out.
Which happened as we were doing this show. Big win for her, basically getting off of all the most serious charges. And today, an update.
Well, she scored an enormous victory, and the prosecution an enormous loss. Not guilty on manslaughter.
I am absolutely sure there would be enough interest in these sidebar conversations to get them. And then to have somebody like Andrea or go over them or sorry, my brain just drew a blank. Yeah. To have Andrea go over them would be great.
Not guilty on murder. Not guilty on leaving the scene of a crime. Convicted basically of drunk driving, which was
there you go. Heck yeah.
And why did the jury do what it did? Did the jury believe that she was innocent, or did they just have a reasonable doubt? There are a lot of questions. We got the first juror to talk. His name is Jason.
You know that TMZ is a very popular. I don't watch TMZ. Harry Levin, the guy who runs it, he's pretty straight up. He's a free speech guy, and so, but I bet you they paid this dude a lot. I bet you this dude got paid. I bet you it's 5 figures. I bet you he got at least 10 grand, if not more. you know, because TMZ's got money to just coming out all the crevices. So I bet you this guy got paid. It's just speculating, but I'm thinking he got.
Doesn't want us to use his last name, and he had a lot to say when I talked to him this morning. Jason, the jury found Karen Reed not guilty on murder and manslaughter. Was it because they had reasonable doubt or because they thought she was innocent?
So I think for the jurors, there's a mix of some people think that she was definitely innocent, and the other people, there was a lot of reasonable doubt, at least to where we didn't want to convict her.
That's really interesting. So could you give me a breakdown there? Roughly what percentage of the jury felt she was innocent?
I mean, I can only speak for myself. I think that she was innocent. It's hard to tell exactly what people think deep down. There was a lot of things thrown at us.
So they said that the last juror makeup was a lot older. It skewed a whole lot older last time. And this jury was a lot younger. So I think that kind of played into it. There was only one person that was, older. And I say older, but it seemed like this jury skewed a lot younger than the first one.
Evidence. So it's hard to tell.
So you say in your head she was innocent. Does that mean you think she was framed by people inside that house?
It doesn't necessarily mean that. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to John. Really, I was only presented a limited scope of what happened at the night, and I could only base my opinion off of the evidence that was shown in the courtroom. So I don't really know if there was a cover-up.
This is a smart guy. This is a good juror. And it seems like we'll see the other two that have been interviewed is you've got some really good thinking people on this jury. These people thought about this. They really paid attention. And then there's an interview with one that wasn't a deliberating juror, the one that took all of the notes. And we'll get into that in a little bit. All right.
Or not. I know that's the big conspiracy around it, but I don't really know. All I know is that there was a lot of holes in the investigation.
So what was the feeling of the jury? Because Alan Jackson and the other lawyers raised the issue that she was framed by cops and that they would have turned that house upside down if they really wanted to do an honest investigation, and that he was not hit by a car. He was attacked in that house, bitten by a dog, and then put outside to frame her. Did people...
So, yes, that was their theory. But unlike trial one, like we talked about a little bit ago, is they skirted around. They brought that to the edge. They did not make that the focal point, right? So somebody who knows the evidence, somebody who knows the trial is going to understand that, yes, that is the defense's opinion of what happened. But as the juror just said, it was what they presented. And so they presented just enough of that speculation to cause the reasonable doubt. But unlike first trial, where you had Brian Albert, you had Chris Albert, McCabe, Jim McCabe's husband, and you had all more of those witnesses. You had Colin Albert. You had all of those people that you could put more of that conspiracy together. This trial, they skirted it. They left it on the edge. So they introduced that as reasonable doubt. So, I think Harvey's a little off here on his question because it wasn't a central focus of their defense this time.
On the jury, or some of them, by that argument?
I think some of them bought that argument. It's just hard to tell, though, because whether or not we think that there was malicious intent, we were only presented with the facts that they didn't go into the house. So, there's an example of reasonable doubt. So, there's other examples of reasonable doubt. So even if you want to completely buy into the theory or not,
I donated, by the way. I did. Yes.
that wasn't what we were tasked with. We were tasked with finding, convicting, or deciding on this person's fate based on the proof and the evidence that the Commonwealth was able to present. And
Smart guy.
there was a lot of holes in the investigation.
Yet you went
very
many
smart.
steps beyond that because you say, in your
I
view,
know.
she was innocent. What compels you to think that?
Well, one thing that I think that compels me is we did a lot of review of the tapes, and it seemed to me that the videos that we could see from the car after the alleged incident happened, that when we could see the taillight, it was lit up red where it shouldn't just have been red. So that leads to me a conclusion of, well, how come
Oh man, you could see that the taillight actually wasn't. Oh my goodness. I'm going back.
that when we could see the taillight, it was lit up red
Oh.
where it shouldn't just have been red?
Oh man, because we all saw it. Everybody watching that trial saw that when he knew exactly what second to freeze that thing on to seem like it was white, and then when you moved it even just a little bit forward, it went to red. Everybody out here in the world saw that when that taillight went away, it was red, or when it backed up, when the reflection was on the wall behind it, it was red. So many people saw that, and so did the jury.
So that leaves to me a conclusion of, well, how come it's red in this video after the alleged collision happened, and then it's not, it doesn't have any red pieces where it should be red.
So in other words, you do not believe that SUV made contact with John O'Keefe?
I don't believe that the SUV collided with John O'Keefe.
What was the initial vote with the jury when you first took your vote?
We didn't do an initial straw poll. The judge recommended to us in the courtroom that is not a good way to do it. We broke down, what we did is we broke down each charge, and we went from top to bottom and discussed everything thoroughly, and did our best to do right by the Karen Reed and the Commonwealth.
Was there a division initially?
Yeah, there was a division, but that's what we're there to deliberate and talk about all the evidence.
And that's what's coming out too, is there were jurors that went into deliberations with more guilt, more leaning towards guilty on more than just the OUI. You'll see in the print interviews here coming up that it took them going through the evidence and talking to the others. Once the jurors could discuss the case with each other, it took some, I don't know about convincing, but just going through it and seeing it from the perspective. I think where Lally supposedly had 8 or 9 jurors convinced of manslaughter. I mean, Lally came close to getting a manslaughter conviction last time. This time you had way more jurors on the other side, way more on this did not happen. It is not guilty. Yeah, I think it was less confusing. I do think that whole thing was way less confusing than before, for sure.
There was 2 months of us sitting there, them throwing all this information at us absorbing the information, going home, thinking about it, reviewing it in our heads, and we get to the deliberations, and now we have an opportunity to discuss. Some people went into the deliberations and they were still unsure after two months, and that makes sense because there was a lot of things going on. There's a lot of information. how
There
much can you
was.
weigh one thing or another thing over, you know?
Yeah. What about
And that's I mean, that's human nature. Because they couldn't discuss it before they went into deliberations. This fact over here is going to be more important to this person than this fact. And this fact is going to weigh more than this other one might have something else that weighs more. Maybe the ARCA witness was really convincing to 8 of the witnesses, where it didn't weigh as much to 4 of them. I mean, that's human nature. And so you have your individual that's taking in 3 months of damn trial, right? You got an individual. It's not allowed to talk to other people about it. It's not allowed to talk to even the other jurors about it. Everybody's taking this in individually. And then you get from the individual to the group. And so that dynamic changes. That dynamic from an individual to a group dynamic changes everything. And so it's interesting to think about how you go from individuals and what weight they give pieces of information to a group dynamic where now you have to come together and make a decision. And so it would be interesting. I know we can't see the deliberations, but man, wouldn't just want to be a fly on the wall for that.
about jurors who felt initially she was guilty? Were there any of them?
Yeah, there were a few jurors that think that had thought that initially when they went into the deliberations, that was their standpoint, and that's what we were there to do, to talk through all that and bring up every single piece of evidence. Is there an angle of reasonable doubt to where we're not really sure? Like, are you really sure? Are you 100% or are you 99.9%? If you're that 99%, we can't convict you.
What brought the ones who felt she was guilty over to the not guilty side? Was there anything in particular that
This is
seemed to
very
resonate
interesting.
with them?
Very
It's
interesting.
hard to tell from my position. You'd have to ask them about it. But in my opinion, I think it was just due to the poor investigation. There's just too many holes, and it's hard to prove that the collision happened. So if there's reasonable doubt that happened, or that there may have been foul play, if there's room for that.
I was wondering when my chair wasn't moving. It's because I have a dog right next to it. But he's a 15-year-old dog, so I'm not gonna. Okay, now he's over on the other bed. So 15-year-old dog, he gets a little bit of leeway.
Then it's hard to come to a guilty verdict.
What happened when the jury initially said they had?
It's a little warm today, so nobody wants to lay on the bed. Everyone wants to lay on the floor because it's a little
Had a
cooler.
verdict and then said, oops, no, we don't. And then 15 minutes later, they said, oh, we do. What happened there?
So that actually is kind of interesting. So the envelope, it was sealed and it's locked away. It'll never be looked at. But on everything on that initial slip was the same as the slip that was presented.
But why did they pull it back?
The pulling the back was for the OUI charge.
Driving under the influence, essentially. Drunk driving.
Yes, driving under the influence. We in our deliberations,
Yeah, so I'm still unclear as to why it got pulled back. He said it was exactly like the other verdict form. So what led that one to be pulled back? And it's sealed. It's never going to be released. So we don't, and it could have been just somebody signed it differently, or maybe they went to check the guilty box on the OUI, and because there were 2 options, so maybe they wanted to just connect one of them. I mean, that could be it. It's just speculating. But yeah, this doesn't really explain why it was pulled back.
Decided there was enough evidence and proof that she was driving under the influence
Mhm.
when, yeah.
So, how did the defense do? How did the lawyers do, in your view? Her lawyers.
For her lawyers specifically, I think they all did. I think that all the lawyers on both sides did a really good job. You know,
That's interesting right there.
they presented their case as well.
I wonder if he went into more because this is edited. Yeah, and that might just be being gracious and not wanting to rock the boat because you live in that city, so you're not really wanting to put out there. Well, I thought Hank was a jerk, which that comes up here in a little bit. We'll see that in a second.
You say the investigation was poor. The defense said it was more than poor. It was corrupt, and they pointed to the lead detective who had been fired, didn't testify in your trial. Did that have an impact? And did you think it was a corrupt police investigation?
Do I think it was a corrupt police investigation? I don't know. There's no way for me to know. I wasn't there. There was just there was holes in the case that left for reasonable doubt. I think
Very, very. I mean, this guy's smart. He's smart. He knows what's going on.
they could have checked some box.
He knows what to say. He's being diplomatic. This guy could possibly want to be a politician someday. He's very, very diplomatic. He should probably put his large bottle of hand cream or whatever's going on there. Probably put that away before you get on TMZ. But hey, to each their own.
Or done some things
I'm just
differently.
saying.
But do I know that they were corrupt? Absolutely not. I don't know that there was any corruption going on. But do I know that there wasn't enough proof?
And I'm thinking maybe he might live at home. You look at the pictures on the wall. This is not a bachelor pad. I can tell you that much. And this is not a even a married guy's thing. This looks like he could still live at home.
Or evidence secured by the police to convict Karen Reed?
Being observant.
Absolutely not.
Being observant.
There was not.
Fair to say that your view was that her SUV did not make contact with O'Keefe, therefore she did not kill him, but you don't know how he died.
I would say that's fair to say. I don't know how John O'Keefe died, and I do not believe that there was a collision between the SUV and John O'Keefe.
And that's exactly what was presented at trial. That was exactly what the evidence said. That we don't know, we don't have enough to say the investigation was not done into this, so we cannot tell you how this happened. But it didn't happen the way the state is saying it.
Did all of the hoopla around the case, the people outside, did it give you comfort in reaching a verdict like this, that you saw there was a community behind?
So I'm going to back this up because hello. Just thinking about this one, it's tough because that's probably a lot of pressure. I think more than comfort, it would be pressure, right? Like you. I mean, obviously, if there was more evidence and you had to make a choice, like let's say there was a way that there was more evidence that showed that she did it, but yet you have all these people that are saying she didn't. And then that's just got to be more pressure if you're going to have the opposite verdict than you had here. I would think that and we'll see what his answer is. I just think that's more pressure than it is
around
comfort.
the case, the people outside, did it give you comfort in reaching a verdict like this?
I think that question is just, I don't think that's a good question for a juror, for an impartial juror to say I had comfort knowing that appeased the people that were outside. That's not, that's different than what we want for the criminal justice system. So,
You
yeah.
saw there was a community behind your point of view, or was it irrelevant?
Honestly, that made the pressure a lot harder.
There you go.
And it did not give
There
me
you go.
comfort. It made it a lot
Very good answer. Good
harder
answer.
to block out everything and come to
Mhm.
a decision.
Why did it make it harder?
It made it harder because all of the eyes are on us. We were told we're the most important people in the courtroom, and
Mhm.
they keep us away from the crowds of people in the front of the courthouse. But we do see them, and I don't think that having all those people swayed me to go either way. We were only tasked with looking at the evidence. We were 12 jurors. We had to back up how we felt in this for our decision, and we couldn't let any outside
Very
factors
good
or
answer.
punishment. We couldn't factor any of that. We had to look at the evidence that was presented to us, absorb it, really understand it, and see if there's any reasonable doubt. And there
I think he's very, very well spoken. I think I'm thinking that he kind of, he's the first juror to reach out. He's the first juror to go out there. So he's got confidence. He's got confidence that he can go out and give an interview to TMZ. He can be the first juror out the gate to give an interview. That kind of leads me to believe he was also one of the people that, because you get 12 people together, you're going to get 12 personalities. And so some are going to have stronger personalities. Some are going to have weaker personalities. And I think he's probably one of the, I wouldn't say pushy or, he's got a good way of speaking. And so I bet you he was one of the ones leading everything as far as the jury.
was.
I would envision that.
Jason, thank you so much for spending some time and breaking this down. Appreciate it.
It was nice to meet you, Harvey.
So, what was
Okay.
your big reaction from that? I know some of it was surprising to you.
Yeah, to me, the biggest surprise was that they did not like the show of support for her outside the courthouse, which was intense. And they said he said it created that kind of pressure. I thought that was fascinating. And also, he distinguished between.
That's kind of an he's very LA.
Yeah,
that was an East Coast thing. I think the comfort. I think Harvey saying that surprised him is an LA reaction. That is a West Coast reaction. That was a West Coast question. Thinking about it, that's an LA question. Whereas East Coast, much more rigid, different. That's interesting.
I believe she's innocent, yet I'm not willing to say how John O'Keefe died. I thought that was he was a really kind of astute juror.
Yeah, and there is a difference between not
very astute. I would say
guilty
that
and
for sure.
innocent, and he went all the way to innocent.
As did several other jurors, he said.
All right. Okay, and bam, got that one. All right, so now let's look at the deleted interview. Yes, you heard me right. We have a deleted interview. Why was it deleted? Let me see if I can find that real quick. So this is from John the Goofball. That guy is such a dork. So let's go ahead and find dude here. And so here's what he said is why he deleted that. And now you will see. Yeah, no, exactly. It didn't fit that. That's why I think. So now you will see that I am blocked by John DePepe. He has blocked me because I probably called him a name or said he was stupid or said he was a B word. I'm not exactly sure what I did. But I did something to old John, and John's got his feelings hurt. So I have an interview set up with one of the jurors in the Karen Reed jury who feels the alternate jurors. So these alternate jurors sat through all of the evidence. They sat through all 3 months of the trial. Yes, they didn't deliberate, but they still sucked in all of the information. And like I said, each individual is going to look at the information and the evidence differently. So I think even though they didn't deliberate, they had perspective. We'll see if this interview takes place, but yeah, no, he blocks everybody. So I have an interview set up with one of the jurors, a Karen Reed jury, who feels the alternate jurors do not represent those who actually deliberated and voted. It's a fair point, so I'll only share thoughts of those who deliberated and voted. Well, John, you're an idiot. So I don't. That's essentially saying the jurors' time these last few months and the sacrifices they made to sit through this crazy trial was not worth it. Try to give you some benefit of the doubt, John. Do better. Please develop some ethics and a backbone, sir. Respectfully. Yeah, exactly. Oh, what a... Yeah, how about how exhausting it was to go through 3 months of this freaking trial, right? So, okay. It was actually a decent interview, but you are correct. It did not fit. I bet you these answers infuriated Mr. DePP. I am 100% sure. So let's go ahead. We will read through this. Let me blow this up a little bit. All right. So I was not he even says it right off the bat. I was not a deliberating juror, so I can't speak to what 12 deliberators were told. As for being an alternate, I have to confess to being very let down when Jim called my number. He called 3 other numbers before 17. I thought I was going to get through. Well, what can you do? It's luck of the draw. 6 of us had to be alternates. This was the one that Jen said was the most note-taking fool of all of them. He took all of the notes. He took everybody else's notes. He took everybody's share of notes. So he was the note guy. All right. How would you have voted? I would have voted not guilty for all charges except maybe the OUI, which is exactly what happened. I think she was drunk in the morning. They tested her in the AM, but that doesn't prove she was drunk when she left the bar because she easily could have gone home and drank. That was a point made by multiple people. How was Hank Brennan? Hank was very focused, very determined. He did a great job at crossing Sergeant Barrows. He definitely tripped him up and got him confused on the pictures. But at times, Hank came across as just rude. Saying over here to witnesses was way over the line. And that thing with holes in the back of the hoodie that really hurt his credibility. Same things we were saying out here in the world. When you do that over here, when you're rude to the jurors, you're going to come off unrude. And we wondered, what were the jurors thinking? Were they, and so this kind of confirms, at least in this guy, it came across as rude. How was the blue paint? Honestly, my head was spinning. I thought it was a joke. I couldn't believe a forensic expert would do something so silly. All it did was demonstrate that if you intentionally put your bare skin against wet paint, the paint will transfer to your skin. I don't know how anyone could think that was a smart thing for the prosecution to show. I mean, so we laughed at the blue paint thing. It was even worse in this guy's brain. Like it was even worse. So what was wrong with the case? There were some glaring holes for the prosecution. To name just a few, Hank kept portraying KR's statements at the scene as an admission, but that doesn't add up. If Karen Reed admitted to killing a cop, why didn't any of the cops on the scene arrest her or even detain and question her or put it in their reports? That was a big part of what Alan Jackson said. Your reports do not say this, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Your reports say, could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Is he dead? None of the reports, not one report from any officer said they heard someone say, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Plus on trial 1, you had multiple cops on the stand that said, I did not hear that. Or put it in the reports. There's an officer down. There's a woman yelling her admission for emergency responders to hear. But by coincidence, not a single cop heard it or thought to write it down. That's odd, right? It is odd. No consistent explanation for injuries. No medical doctor would say that a car was involved. If he was on the lawn at from 12:30 a.m. to 6 a.m., where was the frostbite? The state just ignored this. Why? I'm not a true crime guy. I don't know about other murder trials, but maybe you do, John. Is it normal for the state to charge someone with murder when their own medical examiner won't call it a homicide? Is it normal for the state to not call the main detective? Now consider, is it normal for both of these things to happen in a murder trial? Common sense would suggest no way. That's massive doubt. If you couldn't see this, why are we even, this never should have even been a thing. What did defense do well? Defense did a good job of establishing reasonable doubt, especially with Trooper Buchanan. He was so defensive. I kept asking myself, why are the police so defensive, evasive here and not just Buchanan? That's very insightful too. And you'll see here in a minute too that this is a theme. This is a theme. Who were good witnesses? The scientists were convincing, of course. And when they were cross-examination, they didn't get defensive or snippy. Ooh. So Wolf, like I said, when we were watching the trial, Wolf was cool. Wolf is like just Mr. Cool. He never lost his cool. Where Rentschler was a verbal ninja. Like he slayed Hank. He did. He put the final nail in that prosecution coffin. He really did. He solidified the whole thing. But he didn't come off as snarky. That was the thing. He didn't come off as snippy. Like his jabs were not just, he didn't just, snap and get snippy or get defensive. He actually came with it was almost offensive, like being on offense. Like he presented like common sense. And even when he was rebutting what Hank said in a very, I believe I did answer your question, sir, when I first said that. He was very good at being a witness and being cross-examined. That was a genius way to be cross-examined. Okay. Scientists from Mark were convincing when they were cross-examined. They didn't get defensive or snippy. Contrast with so many of the witnesses for the prosecution. Brian Loughran was maybe the most convincing. Aha, lucky, at least for me. I was born in Norwood when JFK was president and have lived in Massachusetts my whole life. I've shoveled more driveways than I care to remember. If there was a body laying in an inch or two of snow just off the road, there's no way a plow driver would miss it, right? Unless the plow guy was drunk or had skipped his route. Totally agree. Who were the bad witnesses? Oh, this makes John just so angry too. I love it. Who were the bad witnesses? Because you know what? Hang on. Hang on, we gotta look up something here. Since they said that I probably won't be able to find it. Dang it. Let's see if this comes up here. Because DePietro community noted over Jen McCabe. This is hilarious too, because this is who were the bad witnesses. Back on a while back, it was a few weeks ago, right? Well, when she testified, This is the face of honesty, courage, and class because Jen McCabe did her part twice and the system let her down. She dropped everything to try and help her friend John O'Keefe. Readers add context to thought people might want to know. Jen McCabe admitted to lying to the FBI when they first visited her and only disclosed 2 of the 5 phone calls made before admitting that she forgot about 3 calls. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. That is just awesome. So let's see what, who were the bad witnesses? Jen McCabe. Too many. Oh yeah. Send me a link. I thought juror number 4 was the guy that was just on TMZ. I thought that was juror number 4. Did you do another one? All right. Yeah, if you got it, send it to me. So Jim McCabe, especially when she forgot who she called when those other agents asked her. Yeah, that's huge. Carrie Roberts, she kind of admitted to lying at the grand jury. She said she didn't do it on purpose, but still, it made me wonder. Why is the state calling someone who lied at the grand jury? And then, as we talked about early, the 4th juror. Okay, cool. Gotcha. Sweet. Boston cop Dever. She didn't want to answer anything. It's kind of funny in hindsight, but at the time it made me think, why is a policewoman so reluctant to say whether or not there were cameras at her police station? Exactly. Okay, so how were the Karen clips to you? Now, remember, this was not a deliberating juror, so this is only his opinion. I didn't give them much weight. The police didn't do anything with her contemporaneous statements that morning. So what would years later, in my opinion? So that's huge. That's what the state had. Her own, when Hank would say her own statements and I can't do a Hank impression, but her own statements used against her. Obviously, the jurors knew that it was not in context. So how do you think John died? Same as the other juror. I don't know. But what I do know is that the state could not back up their theory. For heck's sake, Hank even said something like, we don't know what happened, but we have a good idea. I wrote that down at the time. Well, you wrote everything down. I thought, yikes, we have a good idea. The state needs more than a good idea to convict for murder, right? There was an ocean of reasonable doubt to me. None of the injuries added up to with the state's suggestions. If he had been drilled by the car, he should have more injuries. If he was just clipped and spun around and stumbled and fell on the lawn, then he wouldn't have fallen hard enough to crack his head open. They never reconciled that for me. They seemed to just leave it open. Like maybe it was a combo of those strikes, and then there's the marks on his arm. To me, it's extremely unlikely that you get such a parallel lines in the chaos of a shattered taillight, but most of all, how could there be no trace of John on any of the pieces? Dozens of taillight pieces, scratch, gouged skin, yet not a single taillight piece has any human material on it. More doubt. It honestly would have been more believable if they said Karen got out of the car with a hammer and attacked John. The claw parts of the hammer could have made those arm marks, and the ball part could crack his skull. So, oh my goodness. Oh, cool. Okay, if you got it, send it to me. Or let me know if you have, and we'll look that up too. Lexus data backing up. I wasn't sure what weight to give the Lexus data. Example, the 75% accelerator pedal, interesting, yes, but there was no definitive time link to it because of conflicting theories of time drift. And speaking of drift, Mr. Burgess's graduation date drifted quite a bit. Man, that was tough to watch. Okay, cool. State cell phone temperature of John's phone. State essentially said maybe it was under John's shoulder outside all night. Defense said maybe it was in a garage from 12:30 to 5 a.m. Competing maybes equaled out. Hank said she backed up, hit him, and left him. Why was he wrong? We never got any real evidence of a collusion. Again, a collusion. Collusion! No, we never got any real evidence of a collision. Again, no medical doctor said he had injuries consistent with a vehicle strike. Yes, Hank said she hit him. Okay. But Hank's statement aren't evidence. Love that they put that in. I love that he put that in there, because that was basically all they had is Hank's statements, and he testified quite a lot, right? And he just kept testifying, and then he kept putting these leading statements out there. And when every time he asked somebody, well, what about the debris field? What about the statements you made? What about this? And what about that? Oh, yeah. But Hank's statements aren't evidence. Lawyers say a lot of things. Can't take what either side's lawyers say at face value. Another smart juror. Very smart juror. What did you think of Dr. Wolf, the brain surgeon? Now, this is John trying to take something positive for the Commonwealth, because that's all he is a Commonwealth shill. He's got to get something good for the Commonwealth in here. Well, what'd you think of Dr. Wolf, the brain surgeon? Super accomplished guy, very slick, made me think of Rat Pack cavorting in Miami. Didn't help prove a collision, though. So, sorry there, John boy. You don't get your lovely little thing. So, Justice for John O'Keefe had put this up. They clipped it off his website because it is deleted. Juror 17, an alternate juror, the extreme note taker, did an interview with John to PP Show. It has since been deleted from his page. Great insight from this juror. And my response was, of course John DePedo deleted it, like he deleted that person's taillight yesterday. Because I just can't, I don't know. A lot of my stuff on X is just making fun of shit. So, okay, let me see what we got. Stand by. All right, we got, they're going to, is it on the, might have to go and see if it's there. All right, we'll read her interview in a second. This is the person that Jen had interviewed earlier. And she's making a statement, and it sounds like they'll have more from her on the news. So let's check this out.
For me, I thought Karen Reed was actually maybe guilty of manslaughter in the beginning. But as the weeks passed by, I just realized there was too many holes that we couldn't fill. And there's nothing that put her on the scene, in our opinion, besides just drop John O'Keefe off. And the taillight, the injuries in his arm didn't make much sense that come from the taillight for us. For me,
Brazilian, and I believe she was a lawyer then. So, okay. This is the interview with her. This is from Jessica Machado. I think that's how you say it. Machado. Okay. So, interview with Karen Reed, juror number 11. This is the one that Jen called I think it was the Jenner juror, because she thought she was pretty like the Kardashians. So, let's start off with the most important question. Did you think Karen Reed killed John O'Keefe, and when did you come to that conclusion? To be absolutely honest, on the first day of trial, as I observed Karen's demeanor in court, I was very suspicious. And some of the anti-free Karen Reed people brought this up over and over and over and over again. Well, look at her face, look at her demeanor, look at her. And so at first that might be off-putting. And this confirms it. She was put off by it the first time. But you got to see it over months. You got to see her working over months. You got to see how much effort she put into her own defense, and she didn't just sit there like a defendant. She actually worked on her own defense, and you'll see that here. So let me get a drink of water. It was very suspicious. It felt like she was hiding something. Her confidence gave off an impression of arrogance. Over time, I came to understand that I was looking at a woman who had already lost so much. The fact that she was able to remain calm, composed, and actively involved in her own defense became something I admired. I had doubts, of course. I was initially inclined to find her guilty, at least of manslaughter, but the more holes we saw in the case, the less I believe she was responsible for John's death. For the past 3 weeks or so, I became increasingly comfortable in saying she did not kill him. Whoops. What happened the last 3 weeks or so? Oh, I don't know. The defense case, maybe? Did you feel that the judge favored either side in this trial? This is interesting. This is her perspective of the judge. I wouldn't say favored, but especially during the defense's case, I noticed a lot more of "I'll allow it" being said right after objections to the defense. I understand that certain words or facts can't be introduced, and sometimes attorneys try to get something in by asking questions they know will be objected to. Still, Dr. Russell, for example, was hard to follow due to the constant sustained objections from the Commonwealth. So we heard reports of that jurors might look frustrated that they couldn't get the answers. And then we heard it in Jackson's interview where he says, I have never had a judge sustain all of the prosecution's objections over the course of a freaking trial. I've just never had that. What was the most memorable witness in this trial? For me, Mr. Yuri Buchanan, because I was seated in the first row. This got me earlier. I could see him clenching his fist a few times. It was very tense. So Yuri did himself in. Buchanan did himself in with his demeanor. And this was what the other juror who wasn't deliberated talked about, how everybody on the prosecution side, when it came to cross-examination, they were defensive and snippy. And so it even got, you're putting out that vibe, right? That if you're clenching your fist, you're clenching your teeth, you're tensing up. And so you're putting that tense vibe out in the air, and somebody that's sitting right next to you, somebody that's sitting in the first row of the jury box, and they're seeing Yuri Buchanan tense up and clench his fists, you're not going to be inclined to believe that person. You're going to be less inclined to believe that person. It's just, yeah. Did you believe the injuries to John O'Keefe's arm were caused by a dog? Yes. And I actually have my own theory about the dog's role in his death. I want to hear that theory. I don't see those injuries coming from a taillight at all. Plus, the lack of more injuries on his body made it really hard to believe a collision occurred. Same thing the other juror said. Did you know the ARCA witnesses were first contacted by the FBI? Good question, Jess. No, I assumed it was the FBI after one of the witnesses before ARCA mentioned another agency. So it did actually slip out. One of them, and I think it might have even been Dever, said, I called the FBI when they were talking about the other agency. So, and Jackson did say agents a few times. So, yeah, I think this time it came out a little more better that it was the FBI. So another L for Hank with the damn video clips, right? This is another L on those video clips. We were concerned, people, law tubers, people were concerned about those video clips and how much that weighed on the jurors, right? It was it was a topic of conversation. What did you think of the video clips of Karen speaking in those documentaries? I think she wanted to speak her truth without having to go on the stand. Those interviews gave her better control of the narrative. I also think it was a strategic move by her defense. Her alcohol was an undeniable fact. It was better for her to address it herself. So, yeah, that's an L. That's an L. He thought that was going to be the linchpin to convict her. and it actually worked against him. You feel like convicting Karen of the OUI is the right thing, or did you feel like you had to convict her of something? Absolutely not. The OUI was the only charge I strongly believe the Commonwealth proved. She said in several interviews, I was buzzed, I shouldn't have driven, my alertness wasn't where it should have been. Again, I think another good decision by the defense. I do. What witness did you trust the most? This is interesting. I thought was interesting. I trusted the forensic scientists from the Massachusetts State Police, like Maureen Hartnett and Tess Chart. Interesting. They worked with what they were giving. I also believe Dr. Lapasato and Isaac Wolf were extremely knowledgeable and shared their findings truthfully. So yeah, I don't think Wolf, the brain surgeon Wolf, I don't think his testimony was not the devastating blow that everybody thought it would, or that Hank thought it was going to be. It just wasn't. What witness did you trust the least? Oh, who was that? Officer Kelly Dever. Her behavior in court made me question whether it's safe for someone who acts like that to be carrying a gun among civilians. That is harsh. That is harsh. Oh my goodness gracious. It's awesome, but that's harsh. I love it. How hard was it for you to be part of this jury for so long? How are you able to do it every day? I have 4 young children under my care, and I work from home on a contract basis. I don't have a large workload because I'm their primary caregiver. It was fairly easier to manage their care with my husband, my extended family. I asked my father to help out as well, and he came from Brazil. So when we heard her on the interview there, she had that accent. It's a Brazilian accent. To spend some time with us. Having this part taken care of, I was actually very happy to be part of this process. Did not mind leave the house every day to help the judge, as my kids would say. Once I got into the routine of going to the courthouse every day, I honestly felt like I was reliving my old life as an attorney before I had kids. So it sounds like she was an attorney in Brazil. Made me think seriously about studying and learning more about American law, maybe even working in the legal field again. It wasn't a burden at all, except for deliberation day, when I felt extremely stressed and overwhelmed by the weight of our responsibility. Yeah, absolutely. That is just, a case this big, especially, you're going to have even more stress on you. This too, right here, is very... this says a lot right here. What is something you want everyone to know about this case or trial? I think I'd want to speak directly to the O'Keefe family. I was the juror who left the courtroom in tears, and it wasn't because justice had been served for Karen Reed, though I was happy for her and her family. I cried for Mrs. O'Keefe, Paul, and everyone in John's family. They did not get the justice they deserve. I understand they may not want to hear from any of us, but I want to make it clear that our duty was only to determine whether there was reasonable doubt. If there's any chance that Karen Reed was responsible for John's death, the blame lies with the sloppy investigation that made an impossible connector to his tragic passing. We didn't fail the O'Keefes. The Commonwealth did. The police did. Personally, I believe she is 100% innocent, but even for those jurors who still had doubts, none of us could say beyond a reasonable doubt that she did it. Karen Reed supporters and advocates, please keep pressuring the DA, keep standing against corruption, and above all, I hope we can still achieve justice for John O'Keefe. What a very... that is just a very profound final statement from this juror. That says a lot. That says pretty much all of it. It says that the state did not prove their case, that we tried to look at the evidence that was presented, and the evidence that presented was crap. And so, yeah. All right, let's see if we do we have a video? We do. We do. We do. We do. We're going to get a video. Going to get a video. All right. Right now, we're watching a home serve commercial. And, you know, at least this isn't like a disaster or something. When these commercials come up, it's like, oh, there was a giant earthquake in Indonesia that killed 800 people. But let's watch this commercial for homeserve.com first. This natural disaster brought to you by HomeServe. This drives me crazy.
Plans from HomeServe start at just $4.99.
All right, we don't need to hear HomeServe. But we do want to hear her. So, let me turn up the volume.
Couldn't prove there was a collision and she was responsible for John's death.
Tonight, a juror tells WBZ she is confident in her decision to free Karen Read. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm David Wade. There was immense pressure on each and every juror to reach a verdict in one of the most closely scrutinized cases in recent memory. And tonight, one of those jurors is revealing how she decided on not guilty. She just spoke to Tammy Mutasa, and Tammy, this juror says that she changed her mind as the trial went along.
Yeah, David, tonight, Paul.
I mean, that also shows that they did pick the right jury, right? Even if she went into the trial with the inclination that there was something that she did. And that is that's going to be a common thing. People are going to say, this person is on trial. They obviously did something. But she was open-minded enough to listen to everything and have her opinion changed. But there are a lot of people that are going to go into these trials that think, okay, the state brought charges, so it's obviously they did something.
Paula Prado says it was a very emotional and intense week. She actually left the courthouse crying yesterday because she said she felt on one hand, she felt like Karen Read got justice, but on the other hand, she felt horrible for John O'Keefe and his family and wants him to get justice too.
I was happy for Karen Read and her family. Of course, I think justice was served, but see John O'Keefe's family leaving the courthouse was melt my heart. I'm a mother, and I saw her pain through all those days.
Paula Prado is recounting the gravity and emotions of being one of the 12 jurors in the high-profile Karen Read retrial. It's one day after the jury acquitted Read on her most serious charges in the death of John O'Keefe, her Boston police officer boyfriend.
I just want to tell them it's not our fault that Karen Read is not convicted, even if there's any chance she's guilty of something, of hurt him somehow. The Commonwealth and the investigators didn't do their jobs to prove that to us.
Prado is a lawyer from Brazil. She says part of why the jury reached their verdict was because of the poor police investigation, saying there were too many inconsistencies and not enough evidence that a crash actually happened.
At first, for me, I thought Karen Read was actually maybe guilty of manslaughter in the beginning, but as the weeks passed by, I just realized there was too many holes that we couldn't fill, and there's nothing that put her on the scene, in our opinion, besides just drop John O'Keefe off. And the taillight, the injuries on his arm didn't make much sense that come from the taillight for us. The last witness, Arca, from the defense, that made clear, they did a very good job. We couldn't...
Arca did a very good job. Yes, they did. Dr. Wolf, Dr. Rentschler. I was glad they kind of got away from the cannon. They talked about the cannon. They got the cannon out there with the glass, but then they went away from it, and then they went into the science, went into the forces that are necessary. So, yeah, Arca was just on point.
Prove there was a collision and she was responsible for John's death.
She now hopes the amount of pressure and attention given to Read's case will be put into getting accountability for John O'Keefe.
And I really, really hope there is a way for the case to be reopened and they can investigate again and find who actually did that to John.
They are not going to reopen the case. They're just not going to. They're not.
Now, after deliberating for 22 hours, Paula says she 100% stands by her decision. I asked her if the crowds out here added to that pressure, and she said she actually didn't even realize how big the crowds were, and the room that they were working in was actually covered, so they didn't really see what was going on outside. So all they did was really focus on the evidence that was presented to them. For now, reporting live in Dedham, Tammy Matassa, WBZ.
It's interesting because the TMZ guy said he saw the crowds, he knew they were there, and she didn't really see the crowds. So that's, like I said, that shows how individual perspectives of individual people change. What kind of information I take in is different from what kind of information you take in, and it's what I think is important, you probably might not think is important. Maybe you think it's important, maybe not. But it's just shows you how interesting it is of how we take in information and how everyone is different. All right. Well, I think we're going to probably hear from some more jurors in the coming days. So we'll see what tomorrow is. Tomorrow is Friday. So we got the whole crew tomorrow. We'll have Jody and Michael to go over. What's that? Oh, and tomorrow is the solstice, which is wonderful. But then it's also awful because now instead of gaining light, we lose light. Which, it starts out like 5 seconds a day, thing. And then, because right now where I am, the sun never goes down. The sun is always up. It is always light. It is 8:36 right now, and the sun is right outside my window and will be for the rest of the night. But after tomorrow, it starts to lose. And then in about August, we'll actually have darkness again, which, like I said, we don't have right now. But anyway, that's life in the Arctic. Of course, it's just not. People can't just say, okay, we didn't present the case well enough. There were too many holes in the case. Oh, no. There are prominent people who have staked their reputation, whatever kind of idiot reputation they had. But there are people that have staked their reputation on Karen Read is guilty. One of them being Julie Carpenter, which of course has started to search stuff into the jurors and now believes that this was jury tampering. So this is Julie Carpenter. Let me understand this. A juror from the Karen Read trial who immediately went to the media and gave a photo of herself to publish with the interview. She gave an existing Twitter account with true crime lover in her bio, but knew so little about the biggest criminal case in her state that also happens to be right in her own backyard that she was able to get on the jury. So, yes. So this was Paula. This was one of the jurors. So now we've got Julie Carpenter. She's got some, she's not a very smart person, but she's, I don't think she is a slimy person. However, this is one of the worst person in the world. Kate Peters. She thinks that she lied to get on the jury. The majority of the last jury was not like this jury and actually gave a F about the evidence, the victim and his family. The more jurors that come out, the more I'm checking the archives of their socials and turning the results over to the authorities. So this ridiculous woman who's, who is no stranger to the criminal court system and the child endangerment system, thinks that she's going to have some kind of influence on, or that, I don't even, what is she even saying? The trial's over. Give it up. You lost. So those are some of the sad, sad people that are part of the. What's hilarious is they like to call other people a cult, right? Oh, that's, you guys are in a cult. It's like, no, we're real thinking people that can think through things and see lots and lots of holes in this stupid case. But yeah, anyway, so don't really want to give them a lot of airtime. So, all right, one more from Turtle Boy, and then I'm going to go get some dinner. Thank you for hanging out with me tonight. Please click the subscribe and the like button if you have not. It's the huge help. I did not get any editing done on my show. I am so far behind that I am going to be editing this entire weekend. Let's see, what have I got? I got 2 weeks. It's doable. And I've got really 3 weeks before my premiere where I have to have all of the episodes done. But I've got 2 weeks until I have to have the whole thing polished and packaged up. So we got this, though. We got this. We'll do the show tomorrow night. Saturday, I will be probably procrastinating and not editing. And then, no, I'm kidding. I'm going to do some at least. All right. Because I am a king procrastinator, right? I am a Generation X person. That's just what we do. At least me. So this is Aiden. How it started, how it's going. April 17th of 2023. Over a year later from when this happened. January of 2022. Now we're at April 17th, 2023. I am currently working on perhaps the craziest story I have ever written, involving a Boston cop possibly being involved in murdering another cop, followed by an elaborate cover-up designed to frame the murdered cop's girlfriend. Hope to have it out tonight. That was, again, April 17th, 2023, is how I came to know this case. I was introduced to it by Aiden, Dr. Turtle Boy. Not guilty on everything except OUI. Karen Reed is free. So amazing. 2+ years later, here we are. We've come together. And then this is a good picture right there. That is an excellent, excellent picture. I don't know about the frost of the hair, dude. I don't know. Just let it go. All natural. But anyway, all right. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for hanging. Thanks for the comments. Yeah, I am. I've got dinner on the thing. Oh yeah, I got the wrap it up signal from the better half there, so I better wrap it up. So, all right. Thank you very much. It's been a great night. I can't wait to see some more of the interviews, more of the jurors. Karen Reed's got to come out with an interview. I want to hear from a Yannetti and a Leslie, and yes. And we got a show. I've got a show to do too. So keep an eye out for that. On the video on the way out, we'll introduce you to one of the agents for our show. Our show is making fun of the government and all the misinformation bullcrap. So this is Agent Gray from the Bureau Undermining Misinformation. So, all right. Thank you. Have a wonderful night.
Introducing Agent William Gray from the Bureau Undermining Misinformation. When it comes to misinformation, Agent Gray knows what's at stake.
We're the tip of the spear when it comes to protecting American democracy. We're the front line of defense against those who would see our country crumble.
Agent Gray appreciates the opportunity he has to make a difference in the fight against dangerous misinformation.
I was a high school teacher for 15 years. Every year I just gotten more and more miserable. My buddy told me about this new federal agency that was just starting up. I thought that maybe I was the kind of person that this agency could use. And what I would tell you is that I have been seeing what my students post online since before Facebook was cringe. Slurs that they use in Call of Duty chat rooms.
Agent William Gray, a dedicated warrior against misinformation.
Our mission is to protect our country's important institutions, but we can't do it alone. We need help from people